Thank you very much, Agustin. We have two Indonesian in the room, so I would like to invite Professor Talim to add, especially in terms of the policy aspect, Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for over-representing Indonesia. But what I would like to share with all of you is not too specific Indonesian case. My colleague, Mr. Agustin, has raised some of the major points that related to Indonesia. But instead, I would like to reinforce and re-emphasize some of the policy perspective that not only relevant to Indonesia, but hopefully relevant also for other countries as well, at least within East Asia regions. The first point, I think, it's very clear that we need to accelerate food productions globally and at some national levels. So we need to increase productivity growth and productions, not only, of course, in terms of quantity, but also quality dimensions, particularly nutritious values. So I think there is some issues related to that on structural changes from focusing on only stable food, but also to looking at more deeply some other source of nutritious food like horticulture, also livestock. I think in Indonesia, my feeling is our emphasis perhaps has been too much heavily on stable food so far. Some of the policy perspective related to this, first of all, I would like to emphasize the importance of infrastructure, particularly in the case of Indonesia, is the most important things irrigations, because current irrigations scheme infrastructure about 70% is not functioning well. So by investing in irrigations, we think that we can increase cropping intensity, productivity, and finally food productions. And the second specific policy related to food production is, of course, investments on research and development, with, I think, priority areas on developing new crop varieties, of course, include animal breed, not only having high yield potential, but also better nutritious values. I think that's there is a new dimension in that. And the third point related to production is, of course, promote applications of more sustainable production system with environment friendly and less hazardous to human health, including, of course, I think the issue on food safety standard on this. The second major policy perspective I would like to share is, of course, we all understand that the availability of food production per se is not sufficient. So the second major policy agenda is to increase household access to adequate and better quality food. On this general, more specific aspect, I think I would like to emphasize more specifically, particularly for non-continent countries like Indonesia, which is, which consists of so many islands, traveling from one region Java to out of Java, like traveling to some other countries, actually. So there is complex logistic systems, which implies also high transportation costs. So I think the clear policy agenda on that is to improve regional and local distribution system, so we can reduce transportation costs and also facilitate timely delivery of food supply to the needy regions. And the second specific policy related to that is to promote a better post-harvest and handling system to maintain food quality. I think in some other session and other speaker also mentioned that. And the third policy agenda is to promote development of regional and local food reserve system. I haven't heard from some other speaker on this, but again, related to diversity of the regions in Indonesia, with diversity also on culture, in promoting the local and regional food reserve system is very important, so as to enable a local authority to respond quickly, particularly in the case of emergency, because it will be highly costly to deliver food supply from the centers. Okay, I move on to the third major policy agenda is to promote diversifications of diets, particularly in the countries with heavily dependent on a single staple food. Our colleague from Cambodia has clearly mentioned dependent on rice in Cambodia, and I think even more serious for Indonesian case. About 95% of our populations consumes rice. Well, Cambodia, small country, but Indonesia with 235 or 240 million population now, that's quite a burden to make this rice supply available. So that's why I think perspective to diversify diets to some other sources of staple, not only relevant from nutrition's point of view, but also from a development point of view, to reduce our burden to a single commodity supply. So I think in some other session yesterday, Dr. Mark Roskan has also emphasized on this, the importance of course, even though it's takes time and very difficult to promote changing diet, but some activities such as promotions and increased knowledge, awareness of people to have more diversity of diet is very important. This initiative also will have a positive aspect to the production side, to create a demand for some other staple. I think the last point that I would like to share with you all more short-term and medium-term initiative related to in responding to price volatility that currently we are facing. I think this issue is too important to be neglected during this highly respected conference. There are three areas that perhaps can be cooperation's agenda between national governments and also international organizations as well. And this issue I borrow from G20 group initiative actually. The first is improvement on market information and transparency, because of what we experienced in 2007, 2008 is government as well as economic actor do not have accurate information related to market, particularly with regard to food reserve, food stock. And the second agenda is coordinations among national governments for better policy response. So, what on quote the agreed or best practices on policy response that can be shared across government is very important. And the third area in short-term and medium-term initiative is develop risk management instruments for both producers, farmer, and also from consumers' point of view. So developing crop insurance and also derivative financial market for hedging, future market option, and that kind of things. I think that's all for the moment, Mr. Chairman, that I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Talim. So you can see that the problem we can see is quite diversified among the countries, just through 2 countries. And now we come to another country, the Philippines, where we have Esther. She's going to explain to us that the food problem also have to be tackled. The farmers have to help themselves, and not only by themselves, but by their own group. So, Esther, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thanks to IFPRI for giving us this opportunity to share our perspectives in this high-level conference. I work with the Asian Farmers Association. We are an alliance of national farmers organizations. Currently, we have 10 member organizations in 8 East Asian countries. That includes Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. Okay. So please allow me to share these points. 1, there is a link between agriculture, nutrition, and health, and we know it. Okay. In the Philippines, we have a folk song, Bahay Kubo, or My Nipa Hut, where it says that even if our nipa hut is small, there are different kinds of vegetables around the house. When Per said yesterday that to see this link, we have to work with a woman who is a farmer and a mother, that I find is very true. In my first 8 years of work in rural development, I was involved in nutrition and health. We formed mothers groups at village levels, conducted nutrition and primary health care classes. The mothers established herbal and vegetable gardens in their homelots and in the paddy field bonds, made ointments and syrups out of trees and herbs, and cooked vegetables and beans in different ways to make these more nutritious, palatable, and exciting to their children. In the team, we had some doctors, nurses, community facilitator, nutritionist, agriculturist, and priest. Okay. We need a paradigm shift. The work of 400 scientists called the International Assessment for Agricultural Knowledge, Science, and Technology for Development, or IASTD, called for the fundamental way we do farming. So business as usual is not an option. However, investments on small-scale women and men farmers and sustainable, integrated, diversified, agroecological, and organic methods are the way forward. And investments in this kind of family farming with significant focus on women, we think will significantly respond to the interrelated issues of poverty, hunger, food insecurity, nutritional insecurity, financial crisis, and climate change. With this paradigm shift, we think we need also a rethinking as farmers' organizations on several areas. 1, rethinking on production. East Asia, as everyone has said, is a success in green revolution. But chemical-intensive farming has degraded the quality of our soils and our forests. At the same time, we need to adapt to changing climate. We should also do our share in mitigating climate change because we are also citizens in this planet. To address these concerns, we need to upscale our sustainable, integrated, diversified, and agroecological approaches. As farmers' organizations, we help build capacities for this through farmer-to-farmer exchanges, training of farmer extensionists, in-situ demonstration farms, farmer field schools, learn and earning farms, local food reserves, on-site action research, with all of this done with local agriculture institutes, NGOs, and involving farmers as researchers, even as crop breeders. Second, rethinking on energy used. In the last BBC World Challenge, one of the winners was a Philippine NGO promoting RAM, or impulse pump, a device which uses the energy of falling water to lift a lesser amount of water to a higher elevation than the source. This is, we found, very affordable. We had a meeting with this NGO who is promoting this technology 2 weeks ago before coming here, and we were excited to know that they have various simple community-based technologies, not only for irrigation, but also for energy use, community-scale technologies using wind and solar energy. And I remember the villages we went to in Laos, in the south, in Atapu province. We visited last year. They had a big river, they had a mountain, but they have unirrigated rice fields, and they can hardly grow vegetables. So I was excited, maybe this RAM pump can be an answer to them. So it will be good if we further develop and promote small-scale renewable energy technologies which are affordable and accessible to farmers. Rethinking on marketing. We have long been organized as associations for political advocacy and claim-making of our rights. But now we also see the need to organize ourselves around commodity clusters. We are starting with commodity clusters of organic rice, coconut, sugar, and organic vegetables in Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam. We call on investments in the development and improvement of traditional local markets, including wholesale markets owned and managed by local governments in partnership with organized farmers groups. We are working also for direct supply to traders. We are also starting to work on value addition, like producing fruit concentrate. Our Philippine member is negotiating with the government's social welfare department that it uses organic rice in its feeding program and that our members supply this organic rice. We will need support for soft loans, for startup capital for trading and marketing, capacity building for business management, and subsidies for basic pre- and post-harvest facilities. We will need support for consumers to patronize sustainable agriculture products and food sustainably processed by rural communities, and make it more affordable and accessible to the poor. We would like our government and NGO offices to serve fruit juices and snacks that are produced by cooperatives of women and not by big companies. Rethinking on access to natural resources. Access and control of land, water, and common property resources by small-scale farmers, fishers, and indigenous peoples are critical for sustainable agriculture. For fishers in the Philippines, the main policy needed is a delineation of municipal waters so that they can be protected against the intrusion of commercial fishers which catch the fishes in their waters. With the emerging phenomenon also of large-scale land investments by some developed countries, some in East Asia, affecting developing countries, also some of which are in East Asia, we need policies to secure women and men farmers' land, water, forest rights, and educate and organize ourselves so that we can have strong bargaining power when we negotiate, for example, for contract farming and joint venture agreements. Rethinking on gender. The work of empowering women always starts with helping women reflect on their situation and then inspiring them by making them realize about their human dignity, their rights, and what other women in similar conditions do. Organizing, capacity building, and leadership formation and training will be key programs. Also, as farmers in many developing countries is a family endeavor, the one important thing that can greatly help them is the support that women farmers will get from their husbands and male leaders and members of their organizations. We find that in households where both the man and the women have been sensitized to the dynamics of gender and believe in equal rights and opportunities, the full potential of the women farmer are harnessed to the fullest. And lastly, the main role of the farmers' organizations like us and Agustin. Our mandate is to empower ourselves politically, socially, economically, so that we can claim our rights as citizens of our countries, of our region, of our world, so that we can decide and do by ourselves what we think we should act or do to improve our conditions and being able to get the necessary support from others. Politically, we increase the awareness of our members about our situation and our rights. We develop our capabilities to analyze this situation, to present confidently our policy and program proposals to our governments, decision makers, and other stakeholders. We organize ourselves to put pressure to our governments to listen, to dialogue with us, to make laws and policies that will benefit us. Economically, we exchange experiences and expertise on various sustainable agriculture technologies, form commodity clusters, production and marketing cooperatives, develop our capacities in making market researches, business plans, feasibility studies, facilitate link to markets, add value to our products, and develop direct farmer-consumer relationships. But this is a daunting task, and we do not do it alone. We do it with the help of many NGOs, of many government agencies, many international government agencies as well, and business companies who have the same life, who have the same minds to share profits with the farmers. As Chief of Development Finance, going directly to farmers groups will be a worthwhile investment, we think. We believe that farmers groups are key pillars of social change and national development. If we are empowered and consolidated enough in terms of magnitude and competence, we have the potential to effect serious and substantial economic, political, and cultural changes in society. A financing approach called Farmers Fighting Poverty, espoused by inter-agri agencies like AgriCord, is worth looking into. In official development assistance, we call on policies that will strongly encourage governments to involve civil society groups and farmers groups in the decision-making processes, in planning, implementation, and monitoring. The work of IFAD through the Global Farmers Forum processes, the work of FAO through the civil society mechanism of the Reform Committee on Food Security, and the work of GAPSP, or Global Agriculture Food Security Program, in involving CSO members in the steering committee, these are steps in the right direction. We hope that various ODAs, or official development assistance, in agriculture, nutrition, and health will develop mechanisms for organized consultations with farmers groups as well, and that assistance be provided to strengthen the capacities of farmers groups for such meaningful involvement. Thank you.